went on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't. When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid.
Kamala Harris just released her new book, supposedly explaining why she lost the election. But surprise, it's never her fault. Every chapter oozes with half-truths, self-pity, and the predictable woke buzzwords we've all heard 1,000 times before. Then comes Bill Maher, the anti-woke gladiator himself. Armed with razor-sharp sarcasm, he slices through her excuses with surgical precision, revealing Harris as what she truly is, an out-of-touch, performative politician masquerading as a deep thinker. Buckle up, this one's going to hurt.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. "107 Days" is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
Bill Maher kicked things off by tearing into Kamala Harris's new book, 107 Days. According to Maher, even the title perfectly captures Kamala's trademark spin, painting herself as the poor victim who just didn't have enough time. But Maher wasn't buying it for a second. He reminded everyone that Harris had one of the biggest campaign budgets in U.S. history, a media that practically worshipped her, and about 75 million voters who would have backed anything with a D beside it. So blaming her loss on a 107-day window, Maher called it what it is, not just misleading, but downright laughable. In his words, Kamala had every advantage imaginable and still managed to crash and burn.
In 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking, we'll call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Kamala Harris didn't just release a book, she dropped a full-blown political soap opera. In its pages, she boldly throws her former boss, Joe Biden, straight under the bus, accusing him of refusing to step aside soon enough for her to save the campaign. She even suggests Biden ignored warnings about his fading mental sharpness. So much for loyalty, right? But Kamala doesn't stop there. She turns her frustration toward the country itself, claiming America just wasn't ready for a female president because, of course, personal accountability doesn't fit the narrative. And just when you think the blame game is over, she tops it off by whining about not getting her ideal running mate, Pete Buttigieg. Classic Kamala. When things go wrong, everyone's at fault, but her
writes that on election night, when it was clear she lost, an aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, it's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
This part is pure comedy gold. Kamala actually blames one of her own aides. Yes, an aide, for removing the Madame President labels from cupcakes before they were handed out to voters. According to her, that tiny act somehow contributed to her massive downfall. But here's the punchline. The aide only did it because, by then it was painfully clear Kamala had already lost to Donald Trump. Just think about it. Cupcakes being blamed for a presidential defeat. Mark couldn't help but crack up at the sheer absurdity. While the rest of us saw a campaign going up in flames, Kamala saw frosting sabotage. You couldn't make this up, but she somehow did.
Ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong.
If that's absolutely true, the women of the DNC have spent years crafting an image of strength. Fearless, unshakable, and immune to emotion, they're determined to project power at all costs, presenting themselves as iron ladies who never cry, never flinch, and never show vulnerability. It's all about appearing stoic, not human. But let's be honest, it's mostly an act. Behind the rehearsed smiles and perfectly polished speeches lies a deep insecurity, a fear of being seen as too emotional in a man's world. They've buried their natural empathy, mistaking warmth for weakness. And in doing so, they've become what they were trying so hard not to be: artificial. Real strength isn't about pretending to be made of steel. It's about being genuine enough to show you're human.
Isn't it a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the woman show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a geisha.
If you're wondering why Bill Maher took aim at the ladies of The View, here's the backstory. They fired the first shots, mocking and dismissing Maher after he questioned their sudden silence during the whole Jimmy Kimmel fiasco. But Maher, being Maher, wasn't about to let that slide. He called out their so-called bravery for what it really was: pure performance. When Kimmel was first suspended, insiders said The View might be next on the chopping block. And just like that, the show's usually loud, outspoken panel went completely silent. The hosts and producers reportedly tiptoed around the issue, terrified of losing their spots. But the moment news broke that Kimmel was returning, suddenly, their voices came roaring back, bold, confident, and conveniently fearless. Maher nailed it perfectly. Their courage only shows up when it's safe to speak.
On the 5th day, they rose and said, "No one silences us." No one had to. You silenced yourself. Whoopi Goldberg continued, "Did you all really think we weren't going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel?" No, I thought you would, but then you didn't. "5 days? Talk about needing extra time to get ready." And if you can't take a breath and laugh at that, you're making my point.
Evan Sunny Whoopi Goldberg and Ana Navarro are prime examples of selective courage. Bold when it's convenient, silent when it's risky. These women built their brands on outrage, always ready to cancel anyone who dares to think differently. Yet the moment the spotlight turns on them, that fiery confidence vanishes, replaced by fear and careful calculation. They know better than anyone how brutal a cancel mob can be. After all, they helped create it. And now, they'll do anything to avoid becoming its next target. It's almost poetic. The self-proclaimed champions of justice trembling at the thought of losing their own platform. But here's the kicker. Even while living in fear of cancellation, they still gleefully unleash that same mob on others. Their hypocrisy isn't just obvious, it's practically a daily performance, refined and broadcast live for all to see.
Polling came out, and this is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, "You're not hip anymore," ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
The DNC just can't seem to get its footing, and the reasons are stacking up fast. There's no real leader to inspire confidence or set a clear course forward. The party's trapped in its own echo chamber, still heavily influenced, if not outright controlled, by the fringe woke left. It's become a toxic environment where groupthink rules and dissent is treated like treason. Instead of facing hard truths, they cling to comforting delusions, pretending catchy slogans can substitute for real strategy. And now, to make matters worse, Kamala Harris is tossing her own party under the bus. Rather than owning up to one of the most embarrassing defeats in DNC history, she's busy pointing fingers and rewriting the story. It's chaos masquerading as leadership, and Democrats are paying the price.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Some of this is just because people are stupid.
When it comes to sheer popularity, it's true, Donald Trump may have lost a bit of ground. And honestly, that's no shock. Maintaining sky-high momentum after such an unprecedented political comeback is nearly impossible. But here's the twist. While his approval numbers may rise and fall, Trump still dominates where it truly counts. the issues that matter most to everyday Americans. On the economy, he connects with working-class voters who remember lower inflation and bigger paychecks. On the border, he's viewed as the only leader serious about restoring order. And in foreign affairs, his unapologetic America First stance continues to command respect. So sure, Trump might not win a popularity contest, but when it comes to delivering on the issues, he's still miles ahead of the competition.
Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for, but on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did.
At this point, the Democratic Party's entire strategy can be summed up in 2 words: fight Trump. That's all they've got. They've built an entire political identity around opposing him, squeezing every last drop of mileage out of the anti-Trump narrative. It worked once when Biden won, but when they tried to recycle the same tired playbook against Kamala Harris's opponent, voters didn't buy it. People were burned out on the non-stop Trump bashing. They wanted substance, real policies, real plans, real leadership. But when they looked to the DNC, all they found were empty slogans and recycled outrage. No clear economic vision, no border strategy, no direction. The Democrats built their brand on hating Trump, and now that the outrage has faded, what's left is a party that looks hollow, leaderless, and completely out of touch with what voters actually care about.
As you probably know, it's like a diary of what happened. But I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large. And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run.
Maher was absolutely right. The more Americans got to know Kamala Harris, the less they liked her. And honestly, who could blame them? People quickly saw past the glossy Hollywood endorsements, the staged photo ops, and the painfully forced charm. Beneath all that political theater was nothing of real substance, just empty talking points wrapped in a nervous laugh. Whenever tough questions came her way, she'd dodge, stumble through vague answers, or fall back on that now infamous cackle that became her trademark. It was clear she wasn't ready for the pressure or the policies. Voters were craving authenticity and strong leadership. Instead, they got a walking PR campaign. No wonder Maher didn't hold back. Kamala wasn't taken down by her critics. She was undone by her own HOLLOWNESS.
An election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, and nor the influence of money. We should do that. Right?
That's going to be hard to get rid of. They tried. But, it's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
In the end, Maher's takedown of Kamala Harris and the Democratic establishment was both brutally honest and painfully accurate. The DNC has no clear leader, no unifying message, and no real connection to everyday Americans. From Kamala's endless blame game to The View's performative courage and the party's non-stop obsession with Trump, it all exposes a movement that's lost its direction and its soul. Maher simply voiced what millions are already thinking. The Democrats aren't losing because of Trump. They're losing because of themselves. Until they stop worshiping wokeness and start embracing accountability, they'll keep publishing books about defeat instead of rewriting history with victory. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.